Hello everyone and welcome to another video. Today I wanted to talk very briefly about these little devices. Now these go by a couple of different names. You might hear them referred to as a hitch anti-rattle mechanism, a hitch stabilizer, a hitch clamp, a hitch tightener, etc. But whatever you want to call them, they're really just a simple combination of U-bolts, steel plates, washers, nuts, and cotter pins, and they are great for eliminating any slop that might exist in your 1¼ or 2" hitch. So today we'll cover two different styles of these mechanisms and show you how they install and operate. Now, I hope this doesn't sound creepy, but if you walk around to the back of my van, I'll show you what I'm talking about. Alright, so here we are at the back of the van, and as you can see, I've got a 2" hitch, which is great for installing a wide variety of accessories. So for example, you can install these types of ball mounts if you're interested in towing trailers. For today's demo though, let's go ahead and install this rack attached swing away hitch arm. If you're interested in how this works or what it does, you can kind of look at this picture-in-picture video. I've got a dedicated discussion showing how this operates, but for today's discussion, we can just look at it as something that we want to put into our 2" hitch. So naturally, the easiest way to do this, right, is obviously the male end of this rack attached hitch attachment goes into the female side of the hitch receptacle, and all we have to do is line up the hole appropriately so that we can install using our 5/8" pin. Okay, so we've got it installed now using a nominal or quote-unquote standard configuration, meaning most people, what they would do is probably just insert the attachment into the hitch and then only use the main primary pin. So in my case, it's a 5/8" pin. They would just insert that through and be done with it. Now, the problem is there's some slop that exists between the male and the female side of the hitch. What that yields is it results in some rattling. Look at this. Look how much movement I can get out of this attachment right now. So you can imagine driving down the road, hitting bumps, and this thing is just going to be constantly rattling and wiggling around inside your hitch due to this slop. The situation is almost even worse. Like if you consider, what if you had something like this and you were towing behind a couple thousand pounds of a boat or a trailer or something like this, and you're going down the road and it's bumping around like this. I don't know if I would want to be driving hundreds of miles with the rear hitch rattling like this. So that's where this first type of anti-rattle mechanism is going to come into play. So let's go ahead and install this and see if it fixes this problem. Alright, so installation is actually really darn simple. Like we said earlier, this hitch clamp is really nothing more than a combination of U-bolt, steel plate, and a bunch of nuts and washers. So installation just involves taking your U-bolt, sliding it over the male portion of the 2" hitch, and then taking the steel plate. You'll notice the steel plate, I'll show it from the side, it's got a little lip on one side. So we're just going to take the steel plate, put it underneath such that 1/2 of the steel plate is touching the female side of the 2" hitch, and this lip portion is touching the male edge of the 2" hitch. And then it's just a matter of taking your washers and lock washers like such, taking a 3/4" nut, sliding it on, and let's do the same on the other side. And then tightening them up. So again, these are 3/4" nuts, and you just want to tighten evenly on both sides. And we see that install has totally fixed the problem. See, I'm jerking on this and we're getting no motion now between the rack attach and the main hitch. Alright, so now let's go ahead and install this bike rack onto the rack attach. So again, we'll just take the male edge of the bike rack and insert it into the female side of the 2" hitch. And then we'll go ahead and install with just, again, our normal 5/8" pin, like such. And now we have a similar problem in the sense that this bike rack, again, there is now motion between the bike rack and the rack attach. So let's go ahead and try to install a hitch stabilizer again and see if we can fix this problem. Alright, so we saw earlier that it was easy to eliminate the relative motion between the rack attach and the main vehicle by using this plate and U-bolt style anti-rattle mechanism. And now, since we've got rattle or slop between the bike rack and the rack attach, as you can kind of see here, you can kind of see them moving. you might naturally think, oh, let's just get another one of these. And in fact, that's exactly what I thought. I thought, all right, just buy another U-bolt and plate anti-rattle mechanism to fix this motion. The problem is, if we drop this bolt down, you'll now see that the design of the rack attach is such that there's, I can't do it, right? This bar is blocking the plate from being installed. There's no configuration where I can make this work. And again, that's just due to the design of the rack attach, right? The whole idea is this thing is supposed to be able to swing away, so they need something underneath to support it. I guess one slightly better design would be if they were to just to chop off an inch or so of this, then this would have worked. But as such, there's an easier solution. Instead of using this type of anti-rattle mechanism, we're now forced to use a different type of system. So this one works very simply. The way to do this is I actually have to take this off first. So we're going to replace the normal 5/8 inch main pin with one that is supplied in this kit. So let's go ahead and take this bike rack off and I'll show you how the kit works. So here's the kit. It's actually ingeniously simple. There's only 4 parts in it. This cotter pin and lock washer are pretty self-explanatory, so let's get rid of them. The magic really happens here with there's this bolt which has a smooth shank followed by some threads and then followed by a 3/4 inch head. And then this is the real interesting part. It's just this funny angle piece of sheet metal, but on the inside there's a bolt which is welded to the inside so it can't turn. So installation of this is actually surprisingly simple. All you do is you take the male end of the 2-inch hitch, and all we're going to do is we're going to insert this so that this nut here is going to eventually align with the hole. So all you have to do is, you can see that you kind of have to compress it a little bit. I think that's why it's shaped like this, so that it will stay when you slide it in. Now I'm going to slide it just there so you can barely see. I don't know if you can see that in the camera, but I've got the nut lined up with the hole. So now what I can do is let's insert this male end of the 2-inch hitch back into the female side. All right, so let's insert the male end into the female side. And again, that nut is just sitting in there and not moving as I'm maneuvering this. So again, let's just line this hole up very carefully. Okay, I think that's pretty darn close. So now what I can do is let's take our bolt, stick the lock washer on the end, and I'm going to just now pass it through. The smooth end of the shank is just going to pass cleanly through that nut that was on the inside, but eventually it's going to hit the threads like that. There we go. And now all I can do is I can just start tightening the nut, or the bolt, by turning the 3/4 inch head. And now as I tighten this thing up, what's happening, right, is that nut is now sucking up against the side wall of the male edge, which is in turn butting up against the wall of the female side. And now this is basically, again, eliminating any potential for movement between now the bike rack and the rack attach. All right, and now you can see with both of those anti-rattle mechanisms in place, you can see we've eliminated the slop and the play in both locations. So this is orders of magnitude better than it was before. Now, one other unintended benefit of these Hitch anti-rattle mechanisms is theft protection. Let's say a thief comes along and wants to steal whatever you've got plugged into your 2-inch hitch. How are they going to go about doing that? Well, the first thing they're going to have to do is they're going to have to pull the cotter pin and remove the primary hitch pin. In my case, it's a 5/8 inch hitch pin. Now, if that was all I had and I had no anti-rattle mechanisms, as soon as you pull that hitch pin, the entire assembly should just slide right out of your 2-inch hitch receiver, right? But since I do have these Hitch anti-rattle mechanisms installed, the amount of friction that introduces to the system, look at this. There is no way this male end is coming out of this female end unless the thief, they've got to be carrying around a 3/4 inch drive to remove these nuts on the Hitch anti-rattle mechanism. And let's say they get frustrated there and they just want to steal my bike rack now with all the bikes on it. Well, they run into the exact same problem. This is not coming out unless they've got a 3/4 inch drive to remove this bolt. All right, so there you have it. 2 different ways to eliminate rattle in your hitch system. So with that being said, I think this is a great spot to leave it. I hope you enjoyed the video today, and if so, I also hope you'll consider subscribing to the channel. Surprisingly, if you just scroll a little ways down and click on that subscribe button, it really does help me continue making these videos, and I hope to catch you at a future discussion. So until then, I think I'll sign off for now. Bye.